Fallen Jedi isn't a double entendre only because it applies to more than two characters in the show. Fallen Jedi could be referring to Ahsoka, but it equally applies to Baylan. It could be referring to Sabine. And there's someone else who is very much a Fallen Jedi. G'day, I'm RJ. Welcome to the Nerdy Dad channel. Let's talk about that fourth episode of Ahsoka, Fallen Jedi. Fallen Jedi was directed by Peter Ramsey. He's best known for directing Into the Spider-Verse, but he also directed one of my favourite animated movies, Rise of the Guardians. I absolutely love that movie. In the Star Wars universe, he's directed an episode of The Mandalorian. And what he directed in this episode is a lot of lightsaber duels. In fact, there's a lot of lightsaber action in this whole series so far. I think last episode, episode 3, is the only one to not feature lightsaber on lightsaber combat. And that's really about all I can say about this episode without getting into spoilers. So here we are, we're going to talk the detail, and that means potential spoilers ahead. Let's talk about Sabine and Ahsoka gearing up at the start of the episode. They have a really important heart-to-heart, talking about whether Sabine is willing to do the right thing, even though it's a hard thing, if and when it comes to it. And of course, that's great foreshadowing for what happens later in the episode. It's also important to the characters. Ahsoka knows that Sabine is going to struggle with this. And Sabine says that she is willing to do it. But, if you listen to her voice, it doesn't sound all that confident. And this leads into the assassin droids. Huyang is thousands of years old and he's trained Jedi for all that time. He can't beat the assassin droids, but he can hold them off long enough to send a signal to Sabine and Ahsoka. So Sabine and Ahsoka come out, they do what they do. They work best when they work together. Same as we saw last week in the dogfight. When they're working together as a team, they are really effective. Of course, we saw earlier in the episode that Morgan knew the assassin droids would not hold this pair for long. So next we have the pair of duels between Ahsoka and Marok and Shin and Sabine. And this was a lot of fun. As I said earlier, there's a lot of lightsaber duels in this series, especially in this episode. And I thoroughly enjoy a lot of it, especially the duels in this episode. Let's start by talking about Ahsoka and Marok. Look, other than it was an entertaining duel, I don't have a lot to say about this from an emotional point of view until the end. The stillness of Ahsoka versus the spinning blade of Marok. And then one strike, and it's over. And there's that green gas. So what was Marok? Is that green gas? He's an alien species who's got some kind of gaseous form contained by the armor? Or alternatively, was he undead raised by Night Sister magic? I mean, we've seen that in the animated series before. We've seen that in the video games as well. So my money's on some kind of Night Sister magic being involved with him because of the green. Oof. Either way, I think Marok's done. Ahsoka goes and checks on Sabine. Sabine says she can handle Shin. So Ahsoka continues on to the ruins. Let's talk about Shin and Sabine. Shin is so intense, and I love the rivalry that she's developed with Sabine. I love that fake out. Well, I mean, we saw in the trailers, you have no power, but instead she uses her wrist rockets. That was fantastic. Again, fun duel. I'm loving the lightsaber action in this episode. I've only got to repeat it one more time, because that brings me to the duel between Ahsoka and Baylan. And wasn't this charged? Yeah. Anakin spoke often of you. Well, that's funny. He never spoke about you. My God, we saw some snips coming out. Finally. Even though it's the most serious Ahsoka's been. In this duel, I felt it was really Ahsoka, as if Ashley Eckstein was the one delivering the lines. Sorry, Rosario Dawson, you're brilliant in the role, but I still miss the original. She is the animated character to me, probably always will be. Same problem I have with Hera. The non-human characters, I don't know, there's something about the translation that I'm still struggling with a little, but this scene, this whole episode, but especially the back end of the episode, was so good. Yes, this whole episode was action, 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 go, 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 lightsaber, 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 fight, 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 but the emotion was there. That's the important bit. There was an emotional arc for all of the main characters. There was an arc for Ahsoka, an arc for Sabine. I believe there was an arc for Shin as well. Baylan reacts to things that are going on. It is just brilliant acting, brilliant writing. I am enjoying the series. Anyway, the fight between Ahsoka and Baylan. Baylan believes in his cause. He believes in whatever it is that he's aiming to create through destruction. Ahsoka obviously believes in what she's doing. She refuses to be tempted by Baylan. She knows what she's after. She's determined. She is Anakin's Padawan. She is a bullheaded character. She is after that map. She's going to destroy that map. That is what she's there for, and she has no time for anything else. In this duel, we are reminded that Ahsoka is Anakin's Padawan. Despite her best efforts to leave attachment behind, when Shin rocks up without Sabine, Ahsoka loses it. She taps into the dark side, slams her against the wall. No, it didn't end up killing her, but it should have. And Baylan reacts in turn with anger and no doubt tapping into the dark side himself. And the duel is intense and it is fantastic. And Baylan wins. Ahsoka falls. And then metaphorically, Sabine falls. She has a choice. But when it came time, when it came down to it, she could not abandon her attachments. She could not abandon Ezra in another galaxy. So there we have it. The episode is over. Except it isn't. Because Ahsoka wakes up in the world between worlds. And then we hear the voice of Hayden Christensen saying, "Snips." That music, after we see Anakin Skywalker, the Darth Vader Imperial March. I don't know what's going on here. Is she dead? It wouldn't be the first time. Did somebody drag her into the world between worlds just before she would have died? Also wouldn't be the first time. Is that actually Anakin? Is it his Force ghost? Is it Anakin from another time and place? Or is it some dark side manipulation? Is it a light side manipulation? What is going on? Something deep and mystical, but clearly important to Ahsoka's character growth and the story at large. And I am here for it. And I cannot wait to see what they do with episode 5. This is the Nerdy Dad. Signing off. Hey, I almost forgot to say, why don't you leave me a like? Continue this conversation about Ahsoka down in the comments, and you can subscribe to the channel here.